In the name of inclusion, Joe Biden and the Supreme Court take a stand against women. President Biden signs executive order protecting transgender athletes in school sports. Joe Biden has already taken a big step towards protecting the rights of transgender athletes looking to participate as their identified gender in both high school and college sports. Here we go. Hello and welcome to The Ordeal. If you like my content, I challenge all things woke. Please comment, share, and subscribe to the channel. Please watch the video to the very end. That is the one thing that YouTube looks at to promote my video. That's the main thing they look at. So back to the article here. According to reports Wednesday, Biden made it clear that his administration would be asking federal agencies to enforce last year's U.S. Supreme Court decision that expands the definition of gender discrimination to also include discrimination based on gender identity. Children should be able to learn without worrying about whether they will be denied access to the restroom, the locker room, or school sports. The directive states adults should be able to earn a living and pursue a vocation knowing that they will not be fired, demoted, or mistreated because of whom they go home to or because of how they dress does not conform to gender-based stereotypes. That is actually illegal to do that. Either that or else it's totally legal. It's one or the other. You're not allowed to discriminate based on gender, but you are allowed to fire people in most states for just any reason whatsoever, as long as it's not a protected class. Like, I don't like your haircut, you're fired. Okay, well, there's nothing you can do about it. People should be able to access health care and secure a roof over their heads without being subjected to gender discrimination. The healthcare thing is not about discrimination. It's about understanding what your genes inform the doctor of, because your genes are going to inform the doctor of one thing no matter what you say you are on the outside. As far as going to school as a child and not having to worry about what restroom you're going to use or what locker room you're going to use or school sports. Oh my goodness. Oh, well, this is all a new thing here. So this transgender thing used to only affect men, and it used to only be men going, hey, look, I think I'm a girl, and just would not give that up. And many of them eventually did give it up and go, well, you know, actually, I'm just homosexual. And now women, we're seeing women. Buck Angel, I think, was the first person to say, look, I'm a girl, but actually I'm a boy. Yeah, Buck Angel, you're not a boy. If you don't want to have the external reproductive organs hanging off your body, then sorry, you're not a boy. You're just a confused person that's a transvestite, dressing as if you are the opposite gender. Alfonso David, president of the Human Rights Campaign, has applauded this move as the most wide-ranging executive order concerning gender identity ever issued by a U.S. president. We have a new administration that values inclusion, and we have a government that has a responsibility to represent all of us, David said in an interview, according to the Washington Post. So, inclusion, huh? Well, that doesn't work in women's sports. If you have a person who grew up as a man and then says, look, I'm a girl, and then goes into women's sports, suddenly you're excluding real women. You're excluding the women who were born that way and live their whole life that way because they can't compete on the same level as these trans athletes. And you see here there's a lawsuit filed by women, young women, right, high schoolers. And look at the image here. Two of these things don't seem to fit with the rest of the people running. I don't mean to insult by calling things. I'm just going with the phrase, you know, two of these things don't match the others. Two of these people, they don't match the others. It's because they're dominating in women's sports. So these women are losing their scholarships. They're losing their place in the ranking. It's not inclusive. This is you're actually excluding a bunch of people who deserve to have this position in their chosen field because they are there without cheating, whereas these people who have transitioned are cheating. This is obvious when we see that women who transition to men don't compete against men in sports. Earlier this week, Biden announced his decision to nominate Rachel Levine, Pennsylvania's top health official, as his assistant secretary of health, which would make her the first openly trans federal official to be confirmed by the U.S. Senate, despite the support of the LGBTQ alphabet groups. Conservative groups have already spoken out against the measures, with the hashtag Biden erased women trending on Twitter by Thursday. Well, I wouldn't call myself a conservative. I lean left on most issues, so I'm pro-choice. I'm an atheist. I'm pro-universal health care. These are all left things. But I don't see how this is fair to women, to actual women who were born that way and who were raised that way and have lived their whole lives that way. Let's see here. We have some myths I want to look at. We have 4 myths about trans athletes debunked. Oh, yeah, sure. So let's look at the myths. The participation of trans athletes hurts cis women.
Many who oppose the inclusion of trans athletes erroneously claim that allowing trans athletes to compete will harm cisgender women. This divide and conquer tactic gets it exactly wrong. Excluding women who are trans hurts all women. It invites gender policing that could subject any women to invasive testing or accusations of being too masculine or too good at their sport to be a real woman.
Oh, invasive testing. Do you mean looking at their birth certificate? I mean, that's the whole invasive testing. A doctor checked off female. Okay, that's all we have to do.
In Idaho, the ACLU represents 2 young women, one trans and one cis, both of whom are hurt by the law that was passed targeting trans athletes.
Yeah, I'm sure. Do you want to maybe point out these women who are hurt so that we can actually investigate that, or are you just going to throw claims out there?
Further, this myth reinforces stereotypes that women are weak and in need of protection. Politicians have used the protection trope time and time again, including in 2016, when they tried banning trans people from public restrooms by creating the debunked bathroom predator myth.
It's debunked now? It's fine if it's debunked. I don't have a problem with that. It wouldn't surprise me if it were debunked, because I don't really see that as being an issue so much. But do you provide the link to where it is debunked? Where's your source?
The real motive is never about protection. It's about excluding trans people from yet another public space. The arena of sports is no different.
I would hope that the sports arena is not the same as the bathroom.
On the other hand, including trans athletes will promote values of non-discrimination and inclusion among all student athletes.
Except I already talked about that, and it's excluding actual women.
As a longtime coach and sports policy expert, Helen Carroll explains, efforts to exclude subsets of girls from sports can undermine team unity and also encourage divisiveness by policing who is really a girl.
Well, who is really a girl? You insist that you're a real woman, but you also insist that you're trans. What is it? Are you a real woman or are you trans?
Dr. Mary Fry adds that youth derive the most benefits from athletics when they are exposed to caring environments where teammates are supported by each other and by coaches. Banning some girls from athletics because they are transgender undermines this cohesion and compromises the wide-ranging benefits that youth get from sports.
Does it now? Because we had women's sports teams for a long time before this all exploded a few years ago. I mean, a few years ago, this wasn't a thing we even ever thought about or talked about. And then all of a sudden, everybody's trans. There's all these trans people all over the place, everywhere. Oh, yeah, you're trans. You think you're trans? Trans. Yeah, okay. Oh, you want to cut off part of your body and change part of your body permanently? Oh, yeah, just do it. It's great. And now we're seeing all these problems come out where we're finding out these people aren't actually trans. They've just been told that they are. Myth number 2. Trans athletes' physiological characteristics provide an unfair advantage over cis athletes. That's not a myth, that's the truth. If you have had, testosterone pumping through your brain for 15 years and then suddenly decide, hey, look, I don't want that testosterone in there anymore, you're going to have lingering effects from that. You're going to still have that competitive nature. But more importantly, it changes your body.
Women and girls who are trans face discrimination and violence that makes it difficult to even stay in school. According to the U.S. Trans Survey, 20% of trans women who were perceived as trans in school were harassed so badly they had to leave school because of it.
At least you have a source there.
Another 10% were kicked out of school. The idea that women and girls have an advantage because they are trans ignores the actual conditions of their lives.
Well, nobody pays attention to the conditions of my life except me. I'm the one who cares about all the crap that I've had to go through in my life, all of the harassment and abuse and bullying that I've received as a small man. Nobody stands up for me. Nope, nobody stands up for me. But we got a protected class here. We got these people who have some sort of psychological disorder, because by what mechanism is a person born in the wrong body? That just doesn't make any sense. Maybe it's true, but it doesn't really seem to make sense. So
trans athletes vary in athletic ability just like cisgender athletes. One high jumper could be taller and have longer legs than another, but the other could have perfect form and then do better, explains Andrea Yearwood, the student track athlete and ACLU client. In Connecticut, where cisgender girl runners have tried to block Andrea from participating in the sport she loves, the very same cis girls who have claimed that trans athletes have an unfair advantage have consistently performed as well as or better than transgender competitors.
Really? Do you have a source for that? Do you have a link for that? Connecticut is a big place. Is this all over Connecticut? It's all of Connecticut. You know, I can't even work with this. You're not giving me the information I need to tear you apart.
A person's genetic makeup and internal and external reproductive anatomy are not useful indicators of athletic performance, according to Dr. Joshua Safer. For a trans woman athlete who meets NCAA standards, there is no inherent reason why her physiological characteristics related to athletic performance should be treated differently from physiological characteristics of a non-transgender woman.
Are you sure about that? Men have larger bones, larger, heavier muscles, thicker tendons, stronger tendons and ligaments. So there's no difference there. Tell me there's no difference there, really. So what about, say, Fallon Fox here? Fallon Fox is on the left. If you look real hard, you can see the breasts right here. This is a person who looks more masculine than I do. What about Cyborg? Another one, you can see the cleavage. But this is a person who looks more masculine than I do. Fallon Fox broke the face of 2 people. Fallon Fox is an MMA fighter. Broke the face of 2 women. Look at these arms. They're huge. Look at the hands. They're big. Look at that neck. That's a thick neck. That's not a female neck. That's a man's neck. In MMA fighting, they have weight classes as well. So Fallon Fox was pitted against somebody that is about the same height and weight and still managed to break those people's faces. It can't be more obvious than that there is a significant advantage to having been a man and then transitioning to a woman. Myth number 3. Sex is binary. Apparent at birth and identifiable through singular biological characteristics. For 99.99% of the population, this is 100% true. So you're telling me, oh, the 1 in 10,000 person that this doesn't apply to. And some people are born male and then they have other non-visible characteristics that make them more masculine. And some people are born female and then have other non-visible characteristics that makes them more female, more feminine.
Girls who are trans are told repeatedly they are not real girls, and boys who are trans are told they're not real boys. Non-binary people are told that their gender is not real and that they must be either boys or girls. None of these statements are true. Trans people are exactly who we say we are.
Oh, who do you say you are? Because let me tell you that for me to say who I am would be very difficult. I couldn't just sit down and go, I am this person. No, there's a lot of stuff that goes into telling you who I am.
The next bit here talks about how people might not have typical characteristics for their gender. And yeah, this is true. Like, I have low T. My T has been measured at like 375 on more than one occasion, around that range, which is below 400, which is the minimum you want to see in a man. Well, what do women have for their testosterone? 25. 25 compared to 375. So unless you're getting these women down to, around 25 on their testosterone level, they're still going to be very masculine. Like, I'm small for a man, but my testosterone is way higher than that of a woman. So you can't just be like, oh yeah, just because you don't have those characteristics, that means you're the opposite gender. No, it doesn't work that way. My testosterone is still way higher than the average woman. That doesn't necessarily matter just because you're not within the standard deviation.
When a person does not identify with the sex they were assigned at birth, they must be able to transition socially, and that includes participating in sports consistent with their gender identity, according to Dr. Deanna Adkins.
So this is supposed to be consistent with their gender identity. Okay. Well, a lot of times these people identify as trans, not as male or female. They're always trans. They never go, oh, look, I'm now that other gender. They're always trans. They're always this third gender. So have a trans league. There you go. Problem solved.
Excluding trans athletes can be deeply harmful and disruptive to treatment. I know from experience with my patients that it can be extremely harmful for a transgender young person to be excluded from a team consistent with their gender identity.
You don't have to play sports. You don't have to play sports. You just don't. I would have loved to have been a competitive fighter. Feel it in my bones, but I couldn't do it because of my health issues. I could train, I could practice, but I had to be very careful because I'm prone to certain injuries that most likely would have happened had I been a competitive fighter. So I had to be very careful. You don't get to do what you want to do all the time. Too bad. If you want to have your cake and you want to eat it too bad you can't. You have to give up certain things for other things. And myth number 4, trans students need separate teams. Yes, they do.
Trans people have the same right to play sports as anybody else for the past 9 years. Transgender athletes have been able to compete on teams at NCAA member collegiates and universities consistent with their gender identity like all other student athletes with no disruption to women's collegiate sports.
Are you sure about that? Do you have the statistical data to back that up? Do you have a rundown of how women have performed in these sports? How these trans people have performed in these sports? They don't have the same right to play sports as anybody else. They shouldn't have the same right. Why would you give a right to somebody to harm others that was not in defense of themselves? So what you're saying is these people who are men, essentially, we saw the images. I mean, this is a problem. And not only that, going beyond that, look at this right here. This is a person called Riley Dennis. And I don't mean to pick on Riley. Riley claims that he is trans, that he is a woman in a man's body, and he is not going to transition in any way. He's going to look exactly like he does now. He's going to wear makeup, grow his hair long. He's going to have all of the same characteristics that he has, except he is internally, in his heart of hearts, a female, a lesbian female, by the way. So he's just a man playing dress up. As long as these sorts of people exist in the world, and this is acceptable, as I'm supposed to acknowledge Riley as a female when there's no evidence that Riley is a female, I don't know what to tell you. You can't just allow anybody to walk up and say, I'm a girl. What about Hannah Mouncey? Have you seen Hannah Mouncey? Look up Hannah Mouncey. 6'2", 220-pound Australian football player. Looks more masculine, and I just like Cyborg here. It's like Fallon Fox here. Much more masculine than I look. By far. Like, night and day difference. Playing against women. And been banned because of that. Thank you, Australia, for doing the right thing.
Excluding trans people from any space or activity is harmful, particularly for trans youth. A trans high school student, for example, may experience detrimental effects to their physical and emotional well-being when they are pushed out of affirming spaces and communities. When a school or athletic organization denies transgender students the ability to participate equally in athletics because they are transgender, that condones, reinforces, and affirms the transgender students' social status as outsiders or misfits who deserve the hostility they experience from peers.
I experienced excessive amounts of hostility, and I was an outcast, and I still am to this day. You gonna do anything about it to help me? Nope. I'm not a protected class. I'm an evil white male, so I can't get any help with that.
Believing and perpetuating myths and misconceptions about trans athletes is harmful. Denying trans people the right to participate is discrimination, and it doesn't just hurt trans people, it hurts us all.
No, if trans people want to play sports, let them play sports, but don't let them play competitive sports, and you won't have this problem anymore. You can go play sports. Hey, nobody's stopping you from running around. You can go run. You don't get to play competitive sports. You don't get to compete against people of your supposed gender, which you're not, because you keep saying you're trans. We're trans. We're not women. We're trans. We're trans women. Trans women aren't real women, but we're trans. No, you're not real women. If you're going to go around calling yourself trans all the time, you're not real women. Give me this garbage. And supposedly the numbers are not actually there to back up. You know, the hormone levels are not there they're not equal to what a natural woman would have for her hormone levels. They have higher levels of testosterone even after they transition. So this is just more ridiculous stuff where they have to take the world and make it to be, all about inclusion, but they're actually excluding people. They're actually harming people. You know, breaking a woman's face when you're fighting her. That's ridiculous. I wouldn't want to face, like, even if I didn't have my health problems, I would not want to face Fallon Fox or this cyborg person. I would not want to face either one of them because, they look like they would beat me in a fight. They look bigger and stronger than me. I don't have that experience when I look at Ronda Rousey. I don't sit there and go, yeah, Ronda Rousey looks scary to me. No, she looks like a weak little girl. Not a weak little girl, but I mean, she looks like she's weaker than me, and she would not be able to stand up to me in a fight. And it's not anything against her. That's just the perception I have looking at her based on who I am as a man and then who she is as a woman. So you're excluding women when you do this, and I can't. You bring up all these points. We're excluding women. It's all equal. Yeah, we participate equally. There's no evidence that these trans women outperform regular women. Yet they are. They're actually outperforming the regular women. There are women at the top, and then all of a sudden some trans person shows up and says, hey, I want to compete against you. And then guess who wins? The trans person every single time. Please direct me, author of this article, please direct me to these instances that you have of trans women being beaten by regular women at their own level. Now, here are 2 separate articles that I found that claim to have links to studies that show that men who transition to women have a significant athletic advantage. And it didn't take me long to find these. I didn't look hard at all. So if I looked harder, I'm sure I could find a lot more of these studies. I don't know what to tell you. I mean, you got to keep these sports pure. Trans women can have they can participate in sports, sure, but not on a competitive level. They don't get to be professional athletes. They don't get to be athletes on a high school or college level because they can just so easily outperform the women. It's not right. It's not fair to the women. You're excluding the actual women. I don't know what else to tell you. I mean, I keep repeating myself because that's the only conclusion I can come to with this. So anyway, thanks for watching. Please like, comment, share, subscribe, and I will see you all next time.